Alright, welcome back. Today we're going to be making a planet, specifically Jupiter. Any technique you learn in this video can be applied to any other planet you make in Blender. So let's get started. Let's go and delete the defaults. Let's click N real quick, display, increase the lines. Yep, and then go ahead and go to World tab, use nodes, color, and set that to black. Alright. So first let's create a UV sphere and scale this up. And click tab to go into the edit mode, W, subdivide smooth, and then click F6 and increase the number of cuts to 8. And go to shading in UV and smooth. Alright, so let's create the camera and position it. So click Control Alt 0 and Shift F to align it with WASD, Shift, Control, all that. Alright, so let's go ahead and start texturing. Actually, first let's create a sun. And let's pull out another 3D view and make sure this is on camera and rendered view. And then this one can be the node editor. Alright. So let's go let's go to the sun and go to strength and click 8. And then we're gonna mess with the size later in the video. So yeah. And let's go ahead and position the light to where it looks good. Let's see here, like that. Alright, so let's get to texturing. Let's create a new material and name this surface. Now for Jupiter, there isn't a lot of depth. It's kind of just flat in most of the pictures you see on NASA. So we're not going to change any of this. We're just going to add just the texture itself. So let me just pull up desktop, 3D assets, textures, and Jupiter. And let's drag this on here. Now we're going to go and put that into color. And that's it for that. Now we have to UV unwrap this. So click Tab, U, and make sure don't unwrap it, but do a sphere projection. And now we have Jupiter. So let's go to the UV image editor, open, and go to desktop, 3D assets, and Jupiter. Alright, so scale this on the x-axis. Let me just turn this off. Actually, no, let's leave it on. And move it on the x-axis. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'll link the texture in the description. So now we can tab out of edit mode and let's align the surface. There we go. Make sure it looks good. Now you can see a hard line that goes from night to day. So we're going to go back to the sun and use the size, and we can just increase this to make it a little bit of a softer transition between the two. Alright, so now we're going to create the atmosphere. The atmosphere is pretty simple also. You just have to duplicate this, scale it up 1.005, and let's go ahead and texture it. Node editor, and just delete that. And so let's rename it to Atmos, and then let's rename this to Surface. And then we're gonna go to the atmosphere and create a new material, name this Atmos. So first we want to click Shift A, search for a mix shader, and put that right in between the diffuse and material output. Alright, and go to Shift A and look up transparency, or transparent, and put that here. And then do Shift A once more and look up layer weight. And then put the facing, not the Fresnel, but the facing on the factor. And change the blend to 0.2 or 0.1. I think 0.1 is better. So now we have to choose a color for the atmosphere. You can really do anything, but I'm gonna go with a simple blue. Make sure it's a light blue. There we go. Actually, I think we have to switch these. Yes. So the transparency goes on the top of the mix shader and the diffuse goes on the bottom. Alright. So now we have the atmosphere texture all fixed. Looks good. So now what we need to do is blur the atmosphere layer so it doesn't look so sharp of a line. So go to, make sure you're on the atmosphere layer and click M and move it to the second layer. And then make sure you have both of these layers selected. And go to the Scene tab and name this one Surface. Then create a new one and call this Atmos. Alright, and go to Surface. Make sure you're on layer 1 only, and then go to Atmosphere and make sure you're on 2. And make sure when you're on the atmosphere layer, you mask the first layer because you can get some weird artifacts on the atmosphere layer later on. So yeah, so let's get to compositing. So we're gonna go down and choose compositing and use nodes and backdrop, and we're gonna make sure that's on surface and go to search and do render layers. Alright, and Shift A, search for mix, put that right in between the composite and the render layer, and put that there. Put the atmosphere actually on the top and the surface at the bottom. Alright, now we can go to, let's make sure we click Control Shift and click on the mix to go into the viewer so we can see the backdrop when we render these two layers out. So I'll be back when these are rendered. Alright, so these are done rendering, and I realized what you have to do is go to where it says mix, and instead of mix, choose add. So now the atmosphere is on top of the surface. So So next we're gonna blur the render layer, the atmosphere. So let's just view this here, and we can go to Shift A and search for blur, and then choose blur. And let's see here, and choose blur, and then do shift control click on blur so you can view on the backdrop. So let's go here and choose fast Gaussian and blur it about 2. That should blur it enough. So let's see. Put the blur on the line in between add and render layer. And let's view, shift control click add. So let's see, to zoom in you click Alt V, and to move around you click Alt and middle mouse button. Let's see. So 2 or 3 is good, or 4, just depending on how much you want it blurred. I like 2. That might be too hard of a line. Maybe 3. Yeah, 3 looks good. So we can click V to back out. Alright, so now we are pretty much done. I think that's it. You can apply the atmosphere and the surface. It's really simple to like any planet you want to make, futuristic or our solar system. You can create any planet in our solar system, doesn't really matter. So that's it. Looks pretty good. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.